A silence that speaks too loud. He vanished without warning. No farewell post, no exit interview, not even a quiet retirement announcement, just silence. And now, that silence has become permanent. Nicky Katt, the actor who played villains with haunting precision, who brought unexpected soul to every role, has passed away at the age of 54. For some, the name might not strike a chord immediately, but the face, the voice, the presence, you've seen him, and if you have, you never forgot. The quiet exit. No one saw coming. Nicky Katt died on April 8, 2025, in Burbank, California. His death wasn't splashed across headlines or trending on every feed. It came through hushed tones, confirmed only by close friends, and attorney John Sloss. There was no public statement from family, no viral post, just a soft exhale from Hollywood, as if even the industry didn't know how to process the loss. For over 3 decades, Nicky played characters that lived in the margins, explosive, sharp, unpredictable. He was the angry kid, the sarcastic cop, the unstable teacher, and somehow he made each one unforgettable. But behind that grit was a man few truly understood. The internet wakes up too late. When the news broke, fans didn't react with memes or trending hashtags. They reacted with guilt. Wait, Nicky Katt died? I just watched him in Boiler Room last week. Why didn't anyone talk about him more when he was alive? A Reddit user wrote something that echoed across timelines. Nicky Katt never got his flowers. He made every scene electric. He deserved more. Suddenly, YouTube searches for Boston Public and Dazed and Confused spiked. People went back, watched again. This time with eyes wide open, noticing what they'd missed the first time. His control, his command, his chaos. He never needed the spotlight. But when he stepped in front of the camera, he took it. The forgotten child star with a grown man's shadow. Nicky Katt was born in South Dakota, and his story began earlier than most. As a child actor, he popped up in the background of your favorite 80s titles, Gremlins, The Burbs, and shows like Quincy M.E. and Father Murphy. A lot of kids dream about Hollywood. Nicky lived it before he even hit his teens. But the spotlight never softened him. Even as a kid, his roles had a strange weight. He wasn't cute. He wasn't polished. He had presence, like a storm cloud brewing behind the eyes. Maybe that's why, unlike other child stars, he didn't chase fame. He didn't care about sitcom leads or teen magazine covers. He wanted something different, something real. The cult classic that made him and trapped him in 1993. Richard Linklater released Dazed and Confused, a coming-of-age cult classic that launched several careers. Nicky played Clint Bruno, the aggressive, unpredictable bully who picks a fight with Adam Goldberg's character. He had maybe 2 scenes. That was enough. Clint wasn't just a tough guy. He was terrifying. He lingered, and just like that, Hollywood labeled him the villain, the heavy, the guy you cast when you need tension in a heartbeat. From that point on, directors knew what they had. Someone who could do darkness without theatrics, grit without gimmicks. But Nicky knew what was happening. In a 2008 interview, he said, "I kind of am notorious for bringing a lot of humor to stuff, and not in a scene-stealing way. Especially if something is really kind of heavy, I'm kind of like oxygen for a drowning man." That line hits different now. Oxygen for a drowning man. He wasn't just acting, he was giving something away, pouring out a piece of himself into every character that didn't belong. And over time, maybe it took its toll. The dungeon teacher, the SWAT officer, the scene stealer. He starred as Harry Sennett in Boston Public, a wild, rebellious geology teacher who taught troubled kids in a place literally called the dungeon. It was one of his few leading roles, and fans loved him for it. But even that didn't last. After a mental breakdown storyline, his character was written off, not because of scandal or burnout, but because David E. Kelley knew Nicky needed to pursue movies again. That's how respected he was by creatives. And those films? Quick flashback roll recap, that sarcastic detective in Insomnia, Nicky, the SWAT officer behind the mask in The Dark Knight, him again, the sleazy guy in Boiler Room, also him, the voice of Atton Rand in Star Wars, Knights of the Old Republic 2, you guessed it, even when hidden, he always made you look. The vanishing that no one noticed after 2018, Nicky Katt disappeared. No films, no series, no interviews, just gone. His last credited appearance was in the TV show Casual. After that, radio silence. There was no public meltdown, no scandal, no headlines, just a slow fade like the end of a dimly lit scene that never cuts to black. It just lingers. He lived part-time in Austin, Texas, spent time around local filmmakers, but even there, he stayed away from the cameras. Was he tired of being typecast? Worn down by an industry that only wanted his darkness, never his depth? No one really knows. But what's haunting is how quietly he left. How few even noticed his absence until it became permanent. April 8, 2025. The final curtain, April 8th. It was a regular day. No news alerts, no breaking reports. Just a confirmation from attorney John Sloss, echoed quietly by friends. Nicky Katt was gone, 54 years old. No cause of death has been officially disclosed, and yet that somehow fits. He was a man who gave everything to his roles, yet kept almost nothing for public display. His passing followed the same pattern. No noise, no spectacle, no attention. A Hollywood actor who didn't want Hollywood's spotlight, even in death. A funeral few heard about, but many felt. His funeral wasn't broadcast. There was no red carpet of black attire, no A-list tributes with podiums and camera flashes. There may have been a small ceremony in Burbank. Closed, private, intimate, like the man himself, but fans didn't need a headline to grieve. They opened up comment sections. They posted favorite clips. They shared screenshots, video essays, tribute threads. A simple clip of Nicky as Harry Sennett saying, "If you're not ready to be challenged, then you're not ready to learn," started making rounds again. This time, it hit different. This time, it felt like a goodbye. The legacy no one could contain. Nicky wasn't a celebrity. He was something rarer, a character actor who never needed fame to be brilliant. He worked with nearly every great director of the 2000s and 2010s. Christopher Nolan trusted him in Insomnia and The Dark Knight. Richard Linklater cast him repeatedly in Waking Life, Suburbia, School of Rock. Steven Soderbergh chose him for The Limey, Full Frontal, and Behind the Candelabra. Quentin Tarantino gave him space in Death Proof. Catherine Bigelow, Joel Schumacher, Neil Jordan, they all wanted him. He didn't dominate scenes. He infected them. Even when he had just 2 minutes on screen, he made them count. There's a reason directors brought him back. They knew what most audiences didn't. You didn't cast Nicky Katt for a name. You cast him for impact, a final reflection. The man behind the madness, he once said, "The best roles are the ones that scare you because they make you drop the mask." And maybe that's what he did. Every time he dropped the mask, showed a little too much truth, made us uncomfortable, made us feel. He didn't want the fame. He didn't chase the spotlight, but he left something more valuable. Honesty on screen. That's why people are watching him now. Sharing his work, remembering his lines, and maybe that's the greatest tribute of all. He played villains but lived quietly. He disappeared before the world noticed he was gone. Now, his silence is louder than ever. So here's the question. Which Nicky Katt role stayed with you long after the screen went dark? Share it in the comments. And let his name echo longer than Hollywood ever allowed it to. Because some actors wait their whole lives to be appreciated. Nicky Katt didn't wait, but he earned it. And now, it's our turn to remember. A life in the shadows of the spotlight. Nicky Katt's journey was never about celebrity. Fame didn't follow him, and he didn't chase it. That's what made his career so unique and so tragic. Born with raw talent, he moved through Hollywood like a ghost with a spotlight. Always visible, but never center stage. While others fought for top billing, Nicky carved out something deeper. Respect from his peers, from directors, and from fans who knew what they were seeing. He never needed to raise his voice. His silence said more than most actors' monologues. And yet, even with all his gifts, he remained overlooked, under-celebrated, undervalued, until now. The master of controlled chaos. There was something surgical about his performances. Watch Boiler Room again. He plays a low-level thug named Greg Weinstein. Sarcastic, smart, sleazy. But in one single stare, you feel danger lurking underneath the confidence. That's the genius of Nicky Katt. He gave you layers in just a glance. In The Way of the Gun, he's a bodyguard who bleeds sarcasm, even while bleeding out. He delivers tension like it's oxygen. And then there's Boston Public. He wasn't just a teacher in that show. He was a fuse. Every line carried unpredictability. Every moment felt like it could explode. Yet behind the chaos, there was pain. There was always pain. Nicky didn't just act. He leaked emotion. The fan who waited 20 years to say thank you. One fan on Twitter posted, "I saw Nicky Katt once in 2001. We were both at a gas station. I was too nervous to say anything. 20 years later, I still regret it. If I had one more chance, I'd just say, thank you. You mattered." That's the kind of impact he had. He wasn't famous in the traditional sense. He was personal. His roles didn't go viral, but they stayed in your mind. He didn't play for applause. He played for truth. The roles that made him immortal. Take a step back and look at his filmography. Gremlins, The Burbs, Dazed and Confused. Boston Public, Insomnia. The Dark Knight. The Limey, Boiler Room, School of Rock. The Way of the Gun. Full Frontal. Death Proof, Knights of the Old Republic 2. He wasn't typecast. He was tasked with delivering truth through characters that most actors would have overplayed or misunderstood. He gave dimension to roles that were written as flat. He gave danger to roles that were written as simple. He gave heart to roles that weren't even supposed to have one. Hollywood's most valuable ghost. There's a reason Christopher Nolan put him in The Dark Knight, even if you missed his face. Behind the SWAT helmet, the tone of that scene carried Nicky's signature. Directors knew. They knew he could ground a scene without stealing it. They knew he could shift mood with one look. They knew he could fill silence with weight. Nicky Katt was a ghost in the system, moving through genres, generations, and scenes like a shadow you couldn't forget. Now that ghost has vanished for real. But the impressions he left, they're not going anywhere. The roles we rewatch differently. Now there's something strange that happens when an actor passes away. Suddenly the same performances feel heavier. The same scenes, once entertaining, start to echo. You rewatch. Dazed and Confused, and Clint Bruno doesn't just look angry anymore. He looks lost. You notice the frustration behind the fists. You revisit Boston Public, and Harry Sennett's chaotic brilliance starts to feel like a cry for help. Even the background moments in The Dark Knight seem different now, because when an actor gives you everything and the world gives back nothing, it changes the meaning of their silence. Nicky Katt never asked for validation, but now fans are giving it anyway. A career without awards, but not without worth. Never won an Emmy, never got an Oscar nod. His name was rarely mentioned on magazine covers or industry panels, but in every Reddit thread about underrated actors, one name always shows up: Nicky Katt. That's legacy. Not the kind shaped by PR teams or studio contracts, the kind shaped by performance, by craft, by truth. He may not have collected statues, but he earned respect from people who actually watch films, and sometimes that's the more meaningful win. A voice, a line, a presence. Now gone, his voice had an edge. That dry, clipped, I don't care but I actually do tone. And now, that voice is gone. No more unexpected cameos, no more scene-stealing monologues, no more gritty performances that make your stomach twist, just a body of work frozen. But here's the thing about actors like Nicky: they don't really go away, because someone out there, today, tomorrow, next year, will stumble across a scene, pause mid-scroll, and ask the same question. Wait, who is that guy? And then it begins all over again. A farewell. We weren't ready. For Nicky, Katt died quietly. No headlines, no public ceremony, no eulogies read aloud on TV, but that doesn't mean he left without impact. His final years were lived in private. His exit came without noise. But for those who knew his work, for those who watched closely, this loss is loud, because we didn't just lose an actor, we lost a presence, a reminder that not every legend needs a spotlight to leave a shadow, the tribute he deserved. So this video, this voice, this memory is for him, for the forgotten genius, for the man who made intensity look effortless, for the ghost who made every scene feel haunted. This is the applause that came too late, but came anyway, because some performances don't fade when the credits roll, they echo. So tell us, what's your Nicky Katt scene? Was it Boiler Room, Boston Public, The Way of the Gun? Was it something small, something loud, something that never left your mind? Drop it in the comments, because Nicky might be gone from this world, but if we remember his work, if we speak his name, then he's not truly gone.